Anine, say go. Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me today as we get ready to make cheeseburger meatloaf cups. For today's recipe, we're going to be using 1 can of Pillsbury Crescent dough, a pound of ground beef, half a cup of shredded cheddar cheese, 1 tablespoon of finely chopped onions, 3 tablespoons of ketchup, a teaspoon of yellow mustard, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We're also going to need a few other things from around your kitchen. You need to look for a mini muffin tray, a mixing bowl, a cutting board, a knife, which your big person can get for you, and a grater for our cheese. Now that you've gone and found all of those things, we need to preheat our ovens to 375 degrees. And then we need to make sure we grease our muffin trays because we don't want the yummy deliciousness that we're making to get stuck. Go ahead, do those couple things, and then we can get started with today's recipe. The first thing we're going to need to do is get this tube of Pillsbury Crescent dough open. There are instructions on the back in case you need them. In case you notice, the hands have changed. This is my daughter. Opening these Pillsbury cans has always been a little bit of a struggle for me, and I actually had to get some help from her. It's okay to be honest, and it's also okay to ask for help when you need it. Once she got that part off, she handed it back to me. There is a line that tells you where to press. Once you've pressed in, it kind of just pops open, which is perfect. Now grab each end and twist until you can get all of the dough out. Now you're just going to go ahead and unroll the dough to make a rectangle. See those lines there and all those little tiny hole perforations? We don't really want those to be there because we're going to have to cut this in a minute or two. So what I want you to do is get your fingers ready, do some stretches. Now, we're going to start at the middle and press outwards with our fingers. Our fingers are basically just walking across the dough. We're patting it down, making sure that those holes aren't really there anymore. They're kind of just doing a big dance across the dough. Keep on pressing until you've got all of those holes out of the way. Now, we need to figure out how we're going to cut this dough so that we can put it in our muffin cups. I'm going to use a pizza roller. What we want to do is cut 4 rows lengthwise. This one's perfect because it's right down the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at that. Way to go. Now, what we want to do is figure out how to cut it across to make 6 rows. And there we go. Now we're going to just take one of these squares and put it over into our muffin tray. Just like that. Here, I'll try and get you a closer look. Just take a square and pop it in. You're going to keep doing this until all of your muffin cups have a piece of dough inside. Gently press that square of dough down so it touches the bottom of the muffin cup. Phew, that was hard work. There we go. One tray full and one more to go. If you only have one mini muffin tray, that's okay. These come right out of the tray as soon as they come out of the oven. So you can do them in batches. You can do the first 12, and then you could go ahead and do the second 12. Now it's time to chop our onion. You're just going to need a small piece off of the onion, and you're going to want to try to make sure you chop it up as fine as you can. You don't really need a whole lot of onion for this recipe. We're actually only supposed to use about a tablespoon. While the adult in your home is dicing up this onion, you could be getting your cheese and your cheese grater ready, because that's up next. So I've just cut off a small chunk of cheese. These are the big holes on the grater. We want to try and turn it over to the smaller holes. We want to grate our cheese up as fine as we can. So make sure when you grab your piece of cheese, your fingers are out of the way. We don't want to get any fingertips or fingernails in today's recipe. Yuck! Make sure you keep those fingertips out of the way and just keep on grating your cheese until the chunk that you're using has been grated all up. Once you feel like you've got enough cheese, lift your grater off and take a look. Now it's time to get to the mixing. The first thing we want to do is put our ground beef into the bowl. Because we're handling raw meat, it's very, very, very important that once we get started with the meat, we don't go anywhere else or touch anything else. Add in your onion. Now we're going to use 1 teaspoon of mustard. Next up, ketchup. You would have received 3 tablespoons of ketchup. Right here, we're only using 1. Don't pour all of it in. And now the salt. Cheese, we need about half a cup of cheese. Sprinkle it in. And now it's time to mix everything up all together. Now that we've got it all mixed up, we can go ahead and start rolling our meat into little tiny meatballs. There, perfect. You're going to need 24 meatballs. So this part might take a little bit longer. Just go ahead and keep on rolling up those meatballs. This is definitely some hard work. I feel like I will be very hungry by the time we're finished. Do you remember how many meatballs we're trying to make? We need 24 meatballs. And look at that, I've got some leftover meat. I'm just going to double check that any of these smaller pieces that I rolled up, they might need a little bit extra. Now it's time to fill our muffin cups with a meatball. So go ahead, drop those meatballs in, and and just give them a gentle push to make sure they're all the way in. We're getting so close to being finished. Here we go with the last step. Take the back of a spoon and gently press all of your meatballs down so that they're nice and flat. That extra ketchup you've got, you're going to spoon it onto the top of each meatball, and then with the back of the spoon, just give it a little bit of a spread. Spread, spread, spread. And now we're just going to repeat the same process. Flatten them down. Use that leftover ketchup. Spread, spread, spread. And they're ready for the oven. We're going to bake our cheeseburger meatloaf cups for 10 to 15 minutes or until the meat is no longer pink in the middle. If you've got a kitchen thermometer, you can insert it and we want it to read 160 degrees. Immediately remove from the muffin cups and make sure to serve warm. I hope you enjoyed this week's recipe, and until next time, Ona!